Let's cut the crap. Every time a Western news crew lands in Pattaya with their cameras and moral outrage, I already know what's coming. Another documentary, another lecture about how Thailand, and Pattaya in particular, is the so-called world capital of sex tourism. Another finger wag at older Western men walking down Beach Road with younger Thai women on their arms. And you know what? I'm tired of it. Because here's the truth nobody wants to admit. Everything they say about Pattaya could just as easily be said about the UK, Germany, the US, France. Pick your country. But somehow, Pattaya gets singled out, put under the microscope, turned into a circus exhibit for Western hypocrisy. But let's not pretend this is some exotic phenomenon unique to Thailand. Walk through any red light district in London, Berlin, or Amsterdam. You'll see the same thing. Women from poor countries. Romania, Nigeria, Albania, working the trade because they've got no better options. In the documentary, Zara McDermott interviews Annie, a local sex worker, who lays bare the reality of life in Pattaya's sex trade. And that's the problem. The BBC frames Annie's story like it's some uniquely Thai tragedy, but poverty is poverty. Exploitation is exploitation. When it happens in Europe, they call it a social issue. When it happens in Pattaya, suddenly it's painted as a moral failing of an entire nation. That's the double standard. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the foreign men. Yeah, Pattaya is full of them. British, German, American, Australian. A lot of them are older, divorced, lonely. They come here for what they can't get back home. Youth, beauty, attention. The BBC paints them as predators, fueling an ugly industry. And once again, the BBC is clearly pushing its feminist agenda. But here's where it gets messy. Many of these same critics go home to countries where the sex trade is alive and thriving. Take London. Ever heard of Soho? Ever looked up the statistics of how many brothels operate under the nose of UK authorities? In Germany, prostitution is outright legalized. Amsterdam built its entire tourist brand around the red light district. So let me ask you, why is it predatory tourism when a Brit flies to Pattaya, but cultural liberalism when a German strolls into a Berlin brothel? Why does the same act get condemned here, but normalized back home? That's hypocrisy in its purest form. But here's my pushback. This isn't uniquely Thai. Look at single mothers in Liverpool, in Manchester, in Detroit. How many men abandon their kids and responsibilities? How many women get left holding the bag when their partner walks away? Abandonment isn't a Pattaya problem. It's a human problem. But the BBC frames it like it's some cultural failing of Thailand, when in reality, it's the universal story of broken promises. The hardest pill to swallow is this. Pattaya's sex trade is systemic. It's part of the city's economy. It draws tourists, fills bars, keeps money flowing. Everyone knows it. Some hate it, some accept it. But it's not going away anytime soon. And here's the kicker. Again, not unique. In Germany, legalized prostitution generates billions in revenue. In Amsterdam, it's a tourist attraction. In London, it's an underground economy that police tolerate because shutting it down completely is impossible. So why is it only when it's Pattaya that the moral outrage hits maximum volume? Why is Thailand's version treated like a global shame while Europe's is brushed off as a complicated social issue? This is where I get frustrated. I'm not defending exploitation. I'm not romanticizing the bars of Pattaya. I'm saying if Western media like the BBC want to point the finger, they need to look in the mirror first. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Pattaya exists because of Western demand. Western wallets. The same journalists who film women in Pattaya for their documentaries walk past streetwalkers in London every night and don't bother pointing a camera. That's the double standard that grates on me. Now let me pause here, because life isn't black and white. Some men do genuinely care for the women they meet here. Real relationships happen. Families get built. Kids grow up in mixed households that are full of love. It's not always exploitation. Sometimes it's messy, sometimes it's sincere. And some women choose this life for reasons beyond desperation. Some like the freedom, some like the money. Some see it as a path to opportunities they could never access in a rural village. That doesn't erase the exploitation, but it adds nuance. And nuance is what's missing in these Western documentaries. They paint Pattaya as hell on earth, a city of victims and villains. But real life is always more complicated than that. So why am I ranting about this? Because these documentaries shape perception. They influence how the world sees Thailand. And I hate seeing this country reduced to a one-dimensional caricature. Sex, sleaze, shame. Thailand is more than Pattaya. Pattaya is more than Walking Street. And even within the bars, the stories are more complex than the BBC's tidy narrative. When Western media trashes Pattaya, it's not just exposing injustice. It's reinforcing stereotypes. It's giving Western audiences a reason to feel superior. Look at those poor, corrupt Thais, they say, while ignoring the same issues back home. Here's what drives me mad. Western media keeps zooming in on Pattaya like it's the world's dirtiest secret, like it's some shameful little island of sin floating out here in Thailand. But if you scratch the surface, you'll see it's just a mirror, reflecting things the West doesn't want to admit about itself. You can call Pattaya many things. Ugly, complicated, exploitative, colorful, profitable. But unique? No way. It's not unique. It's just honest. It puts on display what other countries try to sweep under the rug. Let's follow the money for a second. Do you honestly think Pattaya's economy survives purely on family tourism, retirees, and golf courses? Come on. The sex industry isn't just a side hustle, it's the bloodstream of the city. Bars, hotels, taxi drivers, even food stalls. Everybody down the chain benefits when the nightlife pumps money into the streets. And here's the punchline. Western tourists are the ones funding it. That same British guy who goes home to Birmingham and pretends he's a moral citizen? He's the reason half of Pattaya's bars keep the lights on. His money pays the rent, feeds kids, keeps waitresses employed. But you won't hear that in a BBC special. They'll show you the neon lights, the crying women, the sad piano music. But they won't show you the receipts, the economic reality that without Western wallets, Pattaya wouldn't even exist in its current form. Now, here's another angle. Every time a documentary rolls out, they love to feature a foreign NGO swooping in to rescue Thai women from the bar life. Cue the emotional montage. Workshops, sewing machines, English classes. But let's be honest, how many women actually get rescued? How many go back because the sewing job doesn't pay rent or because the English classes won't cover their kids' school fees? I'm not saying NGO are useless. Some do good work, but the way Western media frames it, like the foreign savior narrative is the only hope, that's insulting. It ignores Thai resilience. It ignores Thai agency. It paints these women as helpless dolls waiting for someone from London to parachute in and save them. That's not empowerment. That's another kind of exploitation, just dressed up in charity clothes. And here's where it gets ugly. Western men come here, indulge, then go home and condemn. They put on the mask of morality once they cross immigration. Suddenly they're critics of Thai sleaze culture. They'll sit in a pub back in Manchester and sneer about dirty old men in Pattaya, conveniently forgetting they were one of them 2 weeks earlier. That's the hypocrisy that really burns. Because if Pattaya disappeared tomorrow, those same men wouldn't stop seeking the same thing. They'd just shift to Amsterdam, Berlin, Prague, or some backstreet in London. But Pattaya makes it visible, and visibility makes people uncomfortable. Let's talk about that feminist angle. BBC documentaries love to frame Pattaya as Exhibit A in their case against patriarchy. Old men exploiting young women. Gender imbalance on neon display. But why is it always about saving Thai women from Thai bars and never about saving Eastern European women trafficked into London brothels? If you really cared about women's dignity, you wouldn't cherry-pick your outrage. You'd call out the hypocrisy at home just as loudly as you call out Pattaya. But they don't, because Pattaya is easier to demonize. It's over there. It's foreign. It doesn't make the UK squirm in the mirror. And here's the other blind spot. Not every woman here is a victim in the way Western feminists want her to be. Some see it as strategy, some are pragmatic about it. They'll say straight up, why should I break my back in a factory for $300 a month when I can make 10 times that in Pattaya? That doesn't fit the Western script. But it's reality. Let's take the UK. Politicians caught in scandals walk free. Celebrities buy their way out of accountability. Epstein ran a trafficking empire under the noses of US elites for years. So tell me, who has the moral high ground here? Another angle the doc loves to push is the fairy tale of the foreign boyfriend. The Western man who sweeps a bar girl off her feet, promises her a new life, only to dump her later, leaving her with a kid and a pile of debt. It happens. It's heartbreaking. But again, look around your own neighborhoods. How many single mothers in the West were left by men who walked away? The difference is, when it happens in Thailand, it's exoticized as some tragic cultural failure. When it happens in London, it's just another deadbeat dad. Same wound, different framing. That's the hypocrisy. Here's what Pattaya forces us to admit. Sex sells. Everywhere. Billions in the porn industry. Strip clubs in every major Western city. Escorts available at the tap of an app. The only difference is Pattaya doesn't hide it. It puts it right on the street, neon signs blazing. And that visibility makes Westerners nervous. It strips away the pretense. It says out loud what the West whispers behind closed doors. And so, instead of facing the truth, they condemn Pattaya as the problem. But Pattaya isn't the problem. It's the mirror. Here's what I wish Western cameras showed. The genuine love stories, the families that work, the women who made money, sent kids to university, built houses for their parents, the men who found companionship they couldn't find back home. Because those stories exist, they're not as shiny for TV ratings, but they're real, and they complicate the black and white narrative the BBC loves so much. I'm not saying the exploitation vanishes if you look for silver linings. I'm saying life is layered, and if you ignore the layers, you're not telling the truth. You're telling a story designed to fit your own agenda. So why does this get under my skin so much? Because I love this place. I love Thailand, and I hate seeing it reduced to a lazy stereotype by people who parachute in, film their exposé, then leave. They don't stick around long enough to understand. They don't live here, raise families here, or build lives here. But their narratives shape the world's perception. They stain Thailand's image while ignoring the stains on their own sidewalks. Here's my take. We don't need another documentary wagging the finger at Pattaya. We need honest conversations about global demand, about poverty, about the real choices women face, about the universal failures of men, about corruption that knows no borders. We need the West to stop playing moral referee while running the same games at home. And maybe, just maybe, we need to admit that human sexuality, in all its messy, imperfect, sometimes ugly forms, isn't going anywhere. It doesn't disappear because you point a camera at Pattaya. It just shifts location. So here's my challenge to the BBC, to Zara McDermott, to every Western journalist who lands in Thailand with a pre-written script. If you're going to tell the story of Pattaya, tell the whole story. Show the poverty, yes. Show the exploitation, but also show the complexity. Show the hypocrisy of the men who condemn what they consume. Show the exact same trade thriving in your own backyard. Because until you do, it's not journalism, it's theater. A performance of outrage designed to make Western audiences feel clean while keeping Thailand dirty. And I don't buy it. Pattaya isn't a freak show. It's a reflection. And if the West can't handle what it sees in that mirror, maybe the problem isn't Pattaya at all. Maybe the problem is closer to home. So, what do you think? How do you feel about the way Western media portrays Pattaya and Thailand's nightlife scene? Do they get it right, or are they missing the bigger picture? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below, and let's keep this conversation going. And if you found this video interesting, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more content.